just wanna say that I feel that.
And those stingless bees could have travelled from up to 20 kilometres away. That's a long way for a little guy that's only between 4 and 6 millimetres. This is part 3 of 3 videos that I've made on Australian native stingless bee swarms. Today we're covering 2 different types of swarms. One that's quite common and one that you may never see. Let's get on with it. Mating swarms. If an attack is successful, when they're ready, they will escort a new virgin queen from the hive that they originally came from to the hive that they've successfully invaded. When they do this, males will form a congregation or a mating swarm to take advantage of the fact that there's going to be a new queen who needs, obviously, to mate. A mating swarm or male congregation can also appear if a hive needs to requeen. Now, what this means is the old queen has died and they need a new queen. So obviously, the new princess has to go on her mating flight. Scientists aren't sure what tells the males to congregate in a particular area. They think it probably has something to do with pheromones. There is one study, which I'll link in the description below, which found tetragonula carbonaria bees travelled from around 2 to 3 kilometres mostly, but some of them came from as far away as 20 kilometres. Travelling for such a distance probably helps them maintain genetic diversity. When the males arrive, they often move slowly through the air in a figure-8 pattern, which frankly is hard to make out. I'm not sure how they manage to do that. But it's true. If you sit and watch long enough, you can see the figure-8. Or they rest on nearby foliage or walls. And when they do that, they stick their bum down and they stick their antenna up like rabbit ears, and they simply wait. They may wait for days. I've been watching a mating swarm outside for over a week on the wall. Oh, this morning I went there, they were gone. So I'm wondering whether the queen from a nearby hive flew out this morning for her mating flight. In contrast to the wait for the mating flight itself is incredibly fast. The new queen will fly out and straight into that male congregation where one single bee will mate with her. After he's mated with her, when he pulls away, half his phallus is left inside the female bee. He falls to the ground and he dies. His function is done. The other males from the mating swarm then move on, they then move on and look for another hive that will soon have a new queen ready to mate. Not much is known at all about the male stingless bees because they're very difficult to study, but it's believed that many of them will simply die from exhaustion, going from hive to hive and never actually mating. The final type of swarm is mentioned in Dr. Tim Hurd's book, and it's mainly found in agriculture. The drift swarm happens when hives are being moved, which with stingless bees more and more frequently being used for pollination on farms, such as tropical fruit trees and so forth. There can be a situation where if a hive isn't moved far away enough and another hive is where their hive used to be, then the foragers will go out and they will accidentally end up at the wrong hive. When they end up at the wrong hive, they go inside, they're perceived as invaders, and a fight ensues against the perceived invaders. But that's not something that most of us would see, I would imagine, unless we were messing around with our hives in our garden. So if you see a swarm, how do you know what kind of swarm you're seeing? The first thing I look for is dead bees. If there are dead bees underneath the entrance of the hive or nearby, then I know that it's most likely a fighting swarm. The next thing I look for, if there are no dead bees, I look just, even if there's a lot of them in the air, and that figure eight's kind of hard to pick out, so I'm not always looking for a figure eight. What I'll do is I'll have a look around at the surrounding foliage, at the surrounding walls, and if I can see bees settled and waiting, then I know that it's probably a mating swarm. Now, if neither of those things is happening, it's probably a colonizing swarm, especially if I'm seeing it somewhere where I haven't seen an established hive before. In any case, it's nature in action, and it's fascinating to watch. And the really cool thing about Australian native stingless bees research being in its infancy is that we can step in as citizen scientists and offer our observations. In fact, there are quite a few citizen science projects going on for native bees, and I'll pop the links in the comments if you're interested. It's really exciting that our observations can be quite meaningful in the sense that they can help expand our understanding of Australian native stingless bees. I hope that now when you go out and see the swarms of stingless bees in your yard, you'll know what you're looking at, or at least have a bit of an idea of what you might be looking at. I found it fascinating researching all of this. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you'd like more videos. Feel free to request topics if you have some. Thanks so much for your support. Remember, this channel is the one with nature, and I'll see you next time.
This is rare, and I wanna take you there.